Hello, my fellow schemers. It's that time again. It's time for sketchbook number 12. I want to show you a few of the stickers that I featured on my cover. This one by Brian of Baru Art. It's a cicada posing as Lloyd Dobler. So in other words, it's Lloyd C.K. Dobler. And this one is from Debbie Draws Funny. I have joined her Weirdo Drawing Club, and you'll see a lot of fun spreads related to some draw-alongs that she's been hosting. And I'll show you the other ones as well. These were some pressed Black-Eyed Susans, and you'll see a little bit more of that later. And this sketchbook took me a little bit under 3 months to fill. This is the palette I put together to bring to Scotland. I did a plein air workshop with Sarah Burns, and this was the map. My husband was a champion driver. I was a very timid passenger, and we drove all around this huge region of Scotland. Absolutely beautiful. Here's the Plague Doctor, and I designed these stickers. That was a very big part of a tour we did under the current streets of Edinburgh. This was the underground adventure that we had. We went to Balmoral Castle on the way up to Cullen. So my first Highland coup. And then this was the beginning of the plein air workshop with Sarah Burns. And my husband entertained himself for those 2 days when I was at the workshop. I've covered Scotland and the workshop in other videos, so I'll link those below if you're interested. When we finished the plein air workshop, we went up north. We stayed in a glamping pod and visited Smooth Cave and Honda Island, a nature reserve, a wildlife reserve where we saw a lot of seabirds, including puffins. This, I made it look like it's sort of continuous, but this was a separate location, the dreaded Road of Terror on the Applecross Peninsula. They survived. This is my wee sheepy, made from yarn on the Applecross Peninsula, and I attached him with a little magnet so he snaps into place very comfortably. This was the most gorgeous hike I think I've ever done, one of them, on the Isle of Skye. This was a street musician we saw in Glasgow. These were sketches that I did in pen or pencil on location during dinner each night, a quick little sketch of whatever was in front of me. So that's what these two spreads were from. But then I painted them and collaged them together when we got back. This was a Drawing Weird Animals live stream co-hosted by Debbie Draws Funny and Melissa Martin Art. I love this little guy, but his name might get him into trouble with the middle schoolers. This was the start of a little tape experimenting that I did, and I just used it as a background. But this is a card by Debbie Draws Funny that she sent me when I joined her Weirdo Drawing Club, so thanks for that, Deb. This was the sketch that I had made to practice making my Glasgow guitarist. But then I ended up doing a project with him on tape. So there were gaps in the tape, and that's what created this little design. These were the remnants of the tape that I had pulled up from that other spread that I showed you. This is some paper weaving with little swatches from some collage paper that I made, as well as some sketches. did a draw along with Sketchbook School for The Wizard of Oz. I like them all okay, except Dorothy was a struggle, and her little dog too. Some doodles. Another Weirdo drawing club. My husband kind of teased me that the cane doesn't make sense for how his hand is. But I hadn't really left room in this hand to put the cane. And anyways,
I'm Gumby, damn it!
Back to the tape experiments. This one I didn't really leave gaps in the tape to any discernible effect. But the tiger, I finally kind of got the vision that I wanted, because these white lines here are the gaps in the tape. Same with these triangles and this triangle. I thought it was kind of cool to play around with creating some of the stripes and coloring based on the gaps in the tape. I did just these 8 days of August. I didn't really want to commit to the whole month, but when you look through, I went in this order, and I think they get better by the end. This little guy's my favorite, so maybe I was getting the hang of drawing dogs a little bit better in just 8 days. An art hang party for undersea creatures, and I put down this watercolor background ahead of time, and I really liked how it added to the effect. I think I like the seal the best. These jellyfish I had high hopes for, but they got away from me. When I was in Scotland, I picked up this little cross-stitch kit and made this Highlands coup, so that's my first example of stitching. And then I picked up a set of 3 embroidery stitches samplers. This was my first one. Some doodles. Some more doodles. I think Joel Miller, though, has made an appearance in most, if not all, of my sketchbooks. The Last of Us. This is Atia from the HBO series Rome. I got my husband to watch that. It's from years ago, very well done. And this is when I first started experimenting with flower pressing. I think it's cool how you can see the ink underneath through the flower. I really grew to love medieval art. Who knew? Sketch and Draw Toronto with Melissa Martin and Charlotte Hamilton. I just did a little bit of that. The second set of embroidery stitches, along with some leftover medieval marginalia. This was fun, an art hang party to draw 100 people in 100 minutes. I just did the first 50. It was fun when there's even only 1 minute to draw the face. My mind was still wandering to what these little characters might have been thinking or doing. This was part of a scribble brigade with Sophie McPike. I just could not get in the groove of it. Maybe that's a commentary. Some more medieval art. I love this guy. These medieval artists are so bizarre and strange and creative. I guess if you're sitting in a room hour after hour by dim candlelight, your mind could wander to some strange creatures. An art hang party focusing on Olympic gold, and I did watch a lot of the Olympics this time. I love this reference so much. I thought it looked cool. The photo was from an underwater perspective, but I showed it to my husband, and he was across the room, to be fair, but thought it was a wizard. A Weirdo drawing club for this side. This one I took my time after the fact and added a lot of shading, and I do like how both of those came out. And I was on a whole kick to rewatch What We Do in the Shadows. I'm also on a kick rewatching Get Back by the Beatles. I think it's my 4th time. I just doodled this while I was watching and filled in a little paint later. This I tucked in. We had bought this on the street from an artist at least 20 years ago. And it's about time I did something with it. I love it because it's the maps of Manhattan in the background and then painted over the top. And this is a self-portrait when I was just emerging from absorb a huge plastic ball that I had rolled down the hill in. I look a little excited. What we do in the shadows, very scribbly. We went to the Queen's Night Market for the first time and tried the food. I think there were over 60 or 70 vendors or so to try, so we would like to go back again. These I made for an art swap. So I made 6 of these kitty-headed dolls, and then I sent off 3 of them as the swap, and I saved their 3 sisters to live in my sketchbook. And some more weird medieval things. This snail, I think, is my favorite. He's super cranky. And these were the pressed flowers I told you about, Black-Eyed Susans, that I put over this green collage paper. And then this side, though, was so cool. When I pressed the flowers, I had this manila oak tag paper behind it. And this is kind of just the flower juice that pressed through. And then I added some magenta. This is just a paper to share some memorabilia. This is a postcard, a piece of art I got from a small Greek island years ago. And this is the info about the wool that I got from the Applecross Peninsula. And it says, where they can graze on the heather and seaweed. I was very enchanted by the sheep of Scotland. We went to MoMA on the same day we did the Queen's Night Market. So there are some tickets as well as some more train drawing. I made this little zine of Beetlejuice. And it was part of a Debbie Draws Funny live stream. This I made inspired by a trip up to the Hudson River Valley, and we did an experience called Walkway Over the Hudson, a pedestrian bridge that's a mile long. And I took little snippets of video throughout the afternoon and compiled this spread based on that. And this isn't really an extra page, I just didn't glue down this part, so I had some room to stash some other stuff in there. A free draw frenzy with Melissa and Deb focused on Seinfeld. There were a lot of die-hard Seinfeld fans in there, including myself, so really fun draw along and meeting. These, I had an idea that didn't work out that I wanted to use these watercolor backgrounds for, so I just stuck them in here with some things from throughout the week. So this little skeleton was inspired by a restaurant I went to and the beauty of everyday life. A car wash that I went through with my son, and I went and saw Beetlejuice. Okay, I finally got back to the watercolor that I had started in my last sketchbook, and this was the end of the course. And the artist, I loved her. I'll show you her little portrait that I did in my last sketchbook with the name of the course. But she basically encouraged us to go through everything we had created and mix and match them in new ways. And it was very freeing to do these things strictly from my imagination. So she talked a lot about kind of having a go-through motif or theme across multiple pages. So these tadpoles kind of go through these spreads. And I loved how this looked. I put down the watercolor, very watery, and then just tipped it up and let it drip down. And I made a bit of a mess, but oh, look at those colors. I love it. And then this was the final one. I had ended the last part of the class with a collage of a frog and tadpoles and things. So I wanted to do another collage, and I made this dragonfly with these little transparent wings. I had a lot of fun with that. I received this art from Zan Blackburn in the art swap that I told you about, And I had said in the swap that I was interested in strange creatures, and Zan designed some incredible original art that I'll show you in a minute, as well as sending me these postcards of past work. And Zan said, "Meet the Akaxolotl. Some say they sprang from a sleeping trickster god's dreams, the mix of an okapi and an axolotl. They don't know how to reproduce, but they are long-lived. These are the last of their kind." So these will not be affixed to my sketchbook because they deserve a place of honor on my wall. This will be the last thing that I complete today in my sketchbook. The third sampler of embroidery stitches. I have 4 more stitches to go. And you know what? Give me a sec. Some last sort of odds and ends sketches that I did on some cheap notebook paper and then glued in. We don't want to see that guy. Guillermo and my Edinburgh practice and a couple other odds and ends will do it. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what was your favorite spread, your least favorite spread, anything new you think I should tackle or try. I really appreciate the comments and the support. Thank you so much. Take care.